I can't help but notice that there's a major plague that looms over us that has had an extreme resurgence in the last few decades, and it only continues to worsen, with most children and teens having more and more unrestricted access to the internet. This plague is no other than a crippling porn addiction. It's almost everywhere that I go now. Pornography or explicit content is somewhere to be found, typically by word of mouth or easy accessible websites. In a certain dark, twisted way, it almost controls society. If you ever played Cyberpunk 2077, then you might understand where I'm coming from. There are many instances where you can see what I believe to be the perfect representation of a not-so-far futuristic dystopia being represented based on today's societal norms, from ads being blasted almost every billboard to an entire monopoly stemming off of this content. Porn genuinely ruins lives of any parties involved, like the consumer and the people who subject themselves or unfortunately are subjected by force or by desperation into generating it. There is really no reason to defend the consumption of pornography and the creation of it, and if you think otherwise, then it's most likely the addiction and the now speaking for you. Most people typically consume the content around their pre-teenage years, between 11 to 13. It's bad enough that doing something that you're instructed not to gives you a dopamine rush, at least for most cases. But seeing something sexually arousing only stimulates that further. It's a huge dopamine rush that just fries your receptors, which can lead to a plethora of problems socially and mentally, one of them being previously mentioned, a porn addiction. I've seen this affect people firsthand, primarily through friends and various other people. The addiction starts out by allowing your morbid curiosity to get the better of you, in which most likely are already far too gone by then. Almost immediately, you just get sucked in, and on a near daily basis, you continue to rot your brain even more. One of the main detriments is the depravity. Being desensitized to the bare human body, let alone all that freaky shit, will place a serious toll on you. Ideally, throughout your lifespan, you're really only supposed to see a single person's body, that being your significant others. Maybe 2 or 3, but that really just depends. But now there really isn't any limit in what you see, which can lead to intrusive thoughts that can lead to some seriously unnatural urges. I only know this through word of mouth, but a majority of the genres on half the pornographic websites are step-siblings and consensual, non-consensual, which are both extremely disgusting and vulgar. This literally makes impression on people that having sex with their siblings is okay, and I'm not exaggerating that either. Older siblings use that as foundation to molest younger siblings and make them think that they can get away with it. In human psychology, we have the id, ego, and superego. In short, the id is ran by your pleasure principle, while the ego and superego is what allows you to keep the id in check and make sure your behaviors are socially acceptable. Your ego develops the more you learn in life, but as children and even adolescents become hooked on explicit content, your ego really never develops as it should, and the id grows and overpowers the ego in various ways. One example is more related to the addiction, where I and many others have had the unfortunate experience of coming across people start to consume pornographic material in public spaces like the school bathrooms. Sometimes they wouldn't even but they would literally just watch it for the entertainment. My friend was literally standing in front of the urinals while he showed us his browsing history, where he had a shitload of porn videos in them. I found that really funny to me. Another example is far worse, however. I mentioned the whole genre thing for a good reason. These videos, while unintentionally, could give people the wrong idea, a really wrong idea. Like previously stated, those weird-ass step-sibling genres heinous and can cause people to think that manipulating their siblings is okay, and it also applies to consensual and non-consensual. People who really find that special type favorable are definitely odd characters, and with the aforementioned id, ego, and superego can definitely lead to sexual misconduct, assault, and even rape. Not only are the consumers a possible threat to society, but so are the corporations behind these websites as well. There are many instances where downright illegal content is uploaded from these sites, one of them being the case of Rose Killenberg. I'm probably just screwed that up. On various porn sites, most notably Pornhub, was the videotape recording her rape at the age of 14. Unbeknownst to her, the video was shared throughout her high school as people began to belittle her for it, which you can imagine forced her to become a recluse. She tried desperately with many attempts to get the video removed, but the website did absolutely nothing. Zilch. Pornhub only decided to finally take action after she had to pose as a lawyer to bluff legal action. As you can see, this is insanely corrupt, because even without proper verification, they can still financially profit off these videos. I find this ironic because, as Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamers points out separately, there is a way to submit a removal of any revenge porn on the website without verification, I can only imagine the incapability that Pornhub would have to go through before finally doing what they are supposed to do. I would like to state that the previous section was based off the Trafficking Hub investigation by SOG, and while the Trafficking Hub group is what I believe is doing the right thing by holding these big corporations accountable, the entirety of the group isn't the most perfect group to get the message across and may have its sights on the wrong target, but I recommend watching Muda's video about it if you're interested. Aside from that, there is another issue regarding suggestive themes. I wouldn't label it as pornographic, but it's pretty extreme, you'll see what I mean. Of course, I'm talking about the Elsagate incidents. I'm sure many of you knew what Elsagate was, but if you're new to YouTube lore, Elsagate, in summary, were a bunch of videos from a variety of content creators who roleplayed as various influential characters that were popular at the time, the main cast being Elsa, Spider-Man, and Mickey Mouse. The original surfacing of the Elsagate wasn't immediately negative. They were innocent enough to be labeled as kid-friendly, but soon after it took a turn for the worse that started its own rabbit hole. Many of the videos were subjects of pregnancy, mass violence, drug, defecation, and urination. Some of these videos had some seriously jacked up stuff in them. I bring up Elsagate because it ties into my previous statement about young and impressionable children can develop certain addictions or issues. Elsagate is a perfect example of this. Many children were exposed during this phase of YouTube, and many have come out over the last few years with some pretty unnatural kinks relating piss, cutting, and so on and so forth. Children were also the potential victim of sexual misconduct. There was another issue within the old Elsagate videos that was the comment section. The comment section was filled with what appeared to be gibberish and nonsense, but was also very suspicious too. It was highly speculated that those comments were used as a way for pedophiles to communicate with each other, using it for God knows what. Though banned, similar Elsagate content still exists in many forms, primarily through the faces of more relevant characters, with measures to make sure no negative repercussion can take place. If you're more interested, I recommend watching Turkey Tom's video on it. It definitely helped me with a little bit of research for this. Back on the main subject of pornography, I definitely have a controversial topic about the industry itself. First and foremost, I believe that porn seriously diminishes the definition of dignity amongst men and women, primarily amongst dudes, but definitely can apply to women too, that are hooked on porn will seriously shape how they think about the opposite or same sex. Before, they would really be attracted more to the other's appearances or how they portray themselves, but after being conditioned by porn, the main aspect they focus on is the body and the sex appeal. Instead of viewing the other as a strong, independent individual, they want to strip that away from them sexually. And it doesn't help how women and men will degrade themselves into exploiting their well-being for cash. It, at least to me, tarnishes the meaning of dignity. Speaking of cash, this helps transition into my second argument. Porn industry lures its victims with a pretty lie of money. Most women in this scenario, sometimes guys, will do anything for some decent pay, whether it be for college funds or to save and spend. And as they see many popular figures within the industry, they decide to dip their toes in it, but instead get almost sucked into the abyss. There are a whole list full of notable porn stars on the internet, which I'm certain all of them have some seriously insane pay, which controversially I do not find fair at all. I don't understand how many of these workers can make so much money by fueling the degeneracy to the world. These false idols can make so much more money than any other hardworking mother or father. Bad Baddie is a perfect example of this. For those unaware, she's a Catch Me Outside girl who blew up a while back from Dr. Phil. In 2021, not that long ago, she turned 18, and as a birthday gift to herself, she made $1 million to the sales of her 6-hour-old OnlyFans. She made music that I could only describe as the sounds you would hear as you entered hell, but I guess she knew that she never had no talent, so she decided to make some of the most easiest money she can get. Guess she understands there's always a demand for more decadence. There was this one Dr. Phil episode I cannot remember for the life of me, where this woman was addicted to drugs and has a way to earn money to try to recuperate, and she decided to turn to porn, which she ultimately regrets, admitting to it while she's sobbing on stage. If you can find this episode or episode clip, please let me know so I can pin it for reference. This episode actually helped tie in my two arguments together. She was desperate, and because of that, sold her body and dignity to the devil. In conclusion, pornography leaves us with nothing positive to gain, and it understands that. It knows temporary sexual stimulation and gratification can overpower almost any man's will, and unfortunately will always fuel the hunger unless people decide to kick that nasty little habit. I know the general idea behind this video is to ridicule and abolish pornography, and to a certain extent I really do agree. But if that were to happen, we would also set precedents on stripping the internet of everything that some people don't like, and I definitely don't believe that's 100% justifiable. There are things that deserve banishment, but it wouldn't be right just because a minority or even a majority don't agree with it. It's a double-edged sword, but I want you to make your own opinion, even though there is always a wrong one. So let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate your patience, and I'll see y'all later. Stay safe.